Crypto prices are on fire, like a raging dumpster fire. Now, many say it's time to focus on precious metals and AI stocks. Now, is it time to move on from crypto, or is this the best buy zone that we've had this market cycle? Now, we'll look at crypto prices. We'll also look at what gold and silver, see what precious metals are doing, and we'll talk about what may be causing this fire on crypto prices, as well as give you our own opinions in our Wednesday episode of Buy, Wait, or Sell with Paul from Definity. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Have you ever worried about money? What if you learned to use some of your money to work for you just right so that you never had to worry about money again? Now, I grew up poor in life. Secondhand clothes, didn't have the cool fashionable stuff. And I realized that the true value of money isn't that it buys happiness. It allows us options in life, and it can decrease that gnawing worry we carry of how do we meet all our financial obligations. Now, after a few months of being in crypto, when I started 8 years ago, I recognized that crypto investment done right had the most amazing opportunity, as well as massive potential to allow people to get to a place where they don't have to worry about money the same way again. After 8 years of being in crypto, I know that crypto can and will change your finances and your life, but only if you are doing things right. While being in crypto, I learned something very scary. You see, I know people that have been in crypto even longer than I have been, but they aren't meaningfully rich yet. They're stuck where they were when they started. And I learned that 89% of people don't make meaningful money or flat out lose money is because they're just doing it wrong. Another 6% make some money, but just a little. Only 5% of crypto investors make life-changing gains that take them into the financial lifestyle that we all dreamed about as kids. Now, haven't we learned in life that if you find out what the successful people are doing and you copy exactly the things that they're doing and how they think about things, you start having their results? So when I was new in crypto, I focused 100% of everything on figuring out what the 5% did and put it into practice myself. By 2021, just 4 years into it, using these principles, I was able to let go of my day job, able to move to the city I wanted, and put myself in a position to never have to work again if I didn't want to. So here on this channel is where I share what I learned, share my research on the companies I like and why I like them. Now, today is our price analysis day. This is a special day where we combine what I've learned with a very different approach and a different way of doing things with our special guest, Paul from Definity, who's been doing price analysis for 30 years. In that experience in analyzing charts and looking at price action, it just makes for such a fun time that I know all of you enjoy getting my opinions on things, Paul's opinions. What I love about bringing Paul on, he has a very different approach to trading, very different than mine, but he's very good at what he does. And so his insights are amazing. And so it's just our fun day today on Wednesday. Now, do note if you're looking to be part of the 5% that I talked about to make life-changing gains, there is a Patreon link below that will give you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. This allows you to surround yourself with people who have learned and are learning to do things the right way, which is the best way to really get good at this. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul looks at many different markets. None of this to be taken as financial advice. Without further ado, help me welcome Paul from Definity to the channel.
Great to be here.
Yes. Well, crypto prices have been a raging dumpster fire. I'm looking forward to looking at that today.
Sure.
Goodness. I was thinking this last week about how markets are going to do what they want, and then the justification gets justified later. And you've been saying this the last 4 years, that often kind of the price action has it, and then people backward justify it with using events.
Yeah.
Do you see that just being another case like that?
I haven't really listened to any views as to why people are saying what's happening is happening. What I have seen is that there are a few stories flying around as to why the markets are coming off. but nothing that, I mean, to put it another way, what have you heard as to what's explaining this? And perhaps we can take a look at those reviews.
What's funny is I haven't heard a lot of explanations other than, like, at first it was, oh my gosh, the trade war with potential trade war with China. And that's when the market really took a strong downward. And it seemed like somebody got some advanced news of that, because like 200 million or maybe a billion went into the markets like few hours before, like new wallets were created. All this money was moved into them, and then they shorted severely. And, that made them $200 million from those shorts.
Right.
So, like, somebody had some kind of notice, or at least saw the price action was going this way, and just poured gas on the fire. And it's like, oh, the trade war with China was the justification. And like, but you've seen that kind of, the stocks tank too, but the stocks rebounded to the upside, and crypto has remained down.
Yeah.
So I hear some reasons, but they just don't hit. That I think bigger the reason is the market wanted to do this, maybe wipe out liquidity, maybe put some fear into the markets. And there's really no other rationale other than big money wanted to do this, in my opinion. And this is where the charts were going to go, based on enough people, big whales actions, to clear out the longs, make some good monies on the shorts, and reset things. And as well as, institutions like to buy low before they let everyone know what it is they're doing. And then they come out with the news that, like, oh yeah, we're long on Bitcoin, or we're long on this crypto. So I think it's a combination of those different plays going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, those stories aren't any different to stories we've heard before. I mean, again, it's backward kind of explanations, post hoc analysis, post hoc rationalization as to why the market's done what it's done. If the market had gone up a lot, there'd be a reason why that's happening, and that particular reason would be ignored. So it is always, it's a game that I don't like to play, to guess why the market has done something, although I do have my own ideas. And it's also why I look at the market technically, because generally speaking, you can come up with any story, and I can make any story, even if it sounds bullish, I can make it sound bearish. And that's what the news media does. So there's no real value in that, in my view. But yeah, there was, I think I even mentioned it on the show, that there was some wallets selling, or there was something that I saw on X, and then that came before a big move down in Bitcoin. But the market went up after that, and yes, it's had a correction. But I think the most important thing to focus on here is that two things. One is that the market, in terms of crypto, tends to follow the trend of the NASDAQ, or risk on. And there are times when that decouples, and there are times when that decouples when sentiment gets very, very negative on crypto, which is where we are now. So if you look at the fear and greed index, we're trading over 100,000, and I could probably pop that up because you've just showed that. We've got the fear and greed index trading at 20, and yes, we've seen a correction in the markets, and we'll go through all the markets, but we had what the UK media had described as a stock market crash in the US. Is that a stock market crash? That's not a stock market crash. It's a big correction, but it's not a stock market crash. And so this tells me a lot about where sentiment is. People are just, they're looking for a crash. They want a crash. And the people who haven't bought are hoping that the prices will go lower, so maybe they can get in, but then they're going to get scared out of it. And mainly people are going more short than long, so they're hoping that things will go down, and they might be sorely disappointed. So for me, it's the sentiment is the most important thing. And there was a comment that Devo Kyles asked about whether it's I don't know if it's worth, but yeah, if you could put that up, that because it ties into what we're saying here. Yeah, people might say it's an institutional run and there'll be no blow off top. All major reversals come out of a blow off top of some kind, and whether it's and it always involves the general public. So it's the general public buying at the final stages. Believe me, if people think that there's money to be made, they will find that money one way or another. The way they will find it is they will beg, steal, and borrow to put money into the market if they think it's going up. So, and that is usually the institutions or the long-term players selling into those hands. But it's kind of a frenzied buying environment that then ends the whole trend. Now, is that guaranteed? No. Nothing's guaranteed in the market, but it happens with enough regularity for it to be in a situation like this to look at the markets and say, I don't think this bull market is over. I think there's more to come. And yes, it has shaken out in a way that is unusual. Bitcoin's gone up a lot and the altcoins just haven't followed. And even when some of the chart patterns were looking really good for a breakout, that does happen. It's unusual, but it's happened. We can only deal with what's in front of us. But, I can tell you for a fact that yesterday, a lot of people talking about a stock market crash, a lot of people selling and getting ready for the big one. And the markets today have just bounced back up again. And it wouldn't surprise me to see after a few weeks sentiment to suddenly switch and things to start moving up again. So I don't think, and I could be wrong, of course. I've got no monopoly on being wrong, and I think that the bull market is still in effect, and this is just another one of those situations where there are a lot of people calling for the end of the bull market, which they did around 70,000, they did around 50,000, and they didn't even see it coming around 15, 16,000. So the odds for me is still on the side of the upside, but we shall see. We can only play with what's in front of us.
What's funny is sentiment is so interesting that you said something that I was like, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes, that's exactly it. When the market really tops, usually sentiment is very much towards the greed side. And so when things are pulling back and fear is so high and people are like, oh, this is the end, it usually isn't the end, because usually the end is we have a severe pullback like this, but everyone's still very much on the greed side because there's this feeling that it will never end. And that's wrong. Like every time I start hearing people say, oh, it's never going to stop going up, that's just worries me. Having watched different cycle markets for quite a while, I had noticed that pattern that people stay near the top. Oh, this is never going to stop going up, which corresponds with the fear and greed indication being high towards the greed side, even when there's then a severe pullback. And we're anything but at that point right now, which is an indication that probably this is going to continue going up because, I mean, you just showed the fear and greed index. Fear is like at 22. So it's pretty high on the fear side, which means probably prices are going to go up. And this is just an amazing buy zone. Now, let's take a look at some of the markets. Now, what markets are you looking at? What has interesting price? We looked at a couple of weeks ago gold and silver prices, and they had gone fully parabolic and then a little bit of a pullback. Where are they lately?
Yeah, we can look at all of that. I wanted to show I mean, look, people are saying that the AI bubble is over and Nvidia is still going up. You've got AMD is still going up, and there's a few that are kind of retracing, like Meta's coming off a little bit. Google's still going up. That's a straight line. Microsoft, that's consolidating. Maybe a little topping pattern there, but generally the trend has been up. So that to me is interesting that there's still some very powerful trends in the tech that are moving higher, and when they start to turn over, I think there'll be greater signals that we're in a bigger market top. But the trends in the equities, which I'll show you in a moment, are still looking very bullish. But one of the charts that is important, of course, is one that we mentioned as an indicator that Chris has mentioned as well, is MicroStrategy. And there was this pattern here of this potential triangular constriction that would normally resolve to a breakout to the upside. And that's very slowly sunk below the lower support line. So this is in an important place because it getting below 230 would not be good. It's drifted down. So this feels like less of a top and more of a kind of sideways drift. Not guaranteeing it's going to go up in any stretch, but this is the first sort of negative signal. The fact that it didn't hold this support. The next one would be break of 230, this level here, because it held so very well, and that would create, if it gets below there, it would create a double top. But let's wait and see if it does that. I'm not going to preempt it. Part of being a technical analyst is you wait for the market to give you the signal, and then you go from there. Saying it's a done deal right now, it's a little bit early, so we shall see what happens. But if you look at the overall index, as I was saying, the sentiment yesterday was extremely negative, and we got this pullback, but the trend is still up, and we've had 3 major bullish weeks and 1 pullback, and everybody says the bull market's over. The transportation average is consolidating and looks like it's going to break higher. The Nasdaq is still in an upward trend. Yes, it may correct a bit, but the trend is still bullish. The S&P, which does represent the broader index, has had, if you look at the way, let's just get it to the daily chart and you'll be able to see the way it went down. Everyone went short, and now it's gone straight back up again. So there's still buying pressure coming in, and it might take a little while for sentiment to settle down again. But if this is trading back into new highs and heading towards 7,000, I don't see the crypto markets sitting around where they are now. So with regard to gold and silver, gold, look at this trend. It's just massive. And I did talk about the signal that was the top in gold, and we did get that reversal. We did get the signal. Now the market's corrected, but of course, I don't think enough people are in this to indicate that this is, in a similar way, the end of the complete end of the trend. I think it's the short-term end of the trend because people got in very late, and the way it was going up was just too fast. But it's definitely not, for me, I don't think it's the end of the overall trend. So that's got more to go. That would imply that the dollar's got more to go on the downside. So gold and silver are consolidating. You see how silver, it's not come back that much. It's hit a low, and now it's coming back up again. And some of the other commodities are looking ready to move higher. So for me, that the play is still there, that commodities moves up. And one of the most important ones is copper, and that's still in an upward trend. Aluminium is still in an upward trend. So if businesses were doing badly, they wouldn't need commodities. If commodities weren't in demand, then the economies would be slowing down. So the markets are telling me that the economies are doing better than people are expecting, because these trends are very clearly to the upside. And the ones that are 50-50 are more bullish than bearish. So putting those together, we can also look at the dollar, which we mentioned looked like it might squeeze back up to 100, which it has done. And the effect of that has been that maybe there was a good call that people were saying perhaps, and it wasn't my call, but perhaps the first interest rate cut, people would be short dollars and then it would squeeze up afterwards. But it's clear that the dollar is still squeezing higher. And if we look at the interest rate market, it was pretty much clear to the downside in terms of where interest rates were going. It seems to have changed a little bit. There's less of a downward pressure on rates. If I show you the 3-month money, just got to take it off log scale. See, this is what the 3-month money did. It had a little bit of a spike up. Now, I'd say that's a more important factor than anything that's been mentioned in terms of what China's doing or what anyone else is doing. It's the direction of short-term interest rates. So from it being clearly downward, the market got a little bit of a blip higher that it wasn't expecting in the 3-month, and in the 6-month less so, but in the 2-year it's starting to slowly move higher. These are very gradual moves, but they're enough to make me wonder whether this is the start of yields going up. But we've still got potentially 2 more cuts coming. So regardless, I don't think it's over yet, because we're still in a cutting cycle. It's going to take a while for us to go into a raising cycle. So once the final cut has been done, if the market is roaring to the upside and everyone's super, super bullish, that would be a really great time to expect everything to turn down, in my view. That would be almost the perfect time. There may be like a few months of leeway after that, but that's when I think the time period would be that things are ready to turn back down.
Yeah, completely agreed. I wanted to add, thank you, Kyle, for the super chat. Retail has no money to get in. So people were saying this was an institutional bull run. There was no blow off top. There will be no blow off top. Retail has no money to get in. Now we're in a bear market. Thoughts? If they're wrong, when blow off top? Like you said it well, that like retail finds the money, and the 2017 bull run, which was mostly a retail bull run, like people forget that after 8 years of Obama, the economy in the US was absolutely devastatingly terrible. And like it wasn't really good for the economy. So 2017, Trump had just barely come in, and with this idea of make America great again, which was inspiring to some people, but the economy still was like 8 years of Obama's economy, which wasn't really strong. And Obama said that, their job was to just manage the decline, that the GDP of the US really is going to be 1.5% from now on. And that's just the way things are. And you just need to get used to it. And Trump came in with his idea of like, no, that doesn't have to be the case, and we can do much better. And the economy did start to pick up, but like people were over leveraged with credit card debt, and yet people found money to come into crypto like crazy. Because when green candles are happening, you'd be surprised. People beg, borrow, and steal the money. They sell their extra car. Like they find ways to put money in if that's where the action is, which is why green candles cause so much more action than like days like this where prices are devastatingly low. You would think if everyone was completely rational, say they like Bitcoin or say they like some of these things, they'd be waiting for a pullback like this and pouncing on it and like excited as can be if they were 100% rational. But as human beings, we're not 100% rational. We're far less rational than we like to think we are. And over time, you can learn to behave according to rules rather than what your emotions tell you to do. Because your emotions on days like this want to sell everything and run away, when rationale would say, oh my gosh, look how amazing these prices are. If I'm going to hold for a while, like, Bitcoin was at 126,000. It's been trading about 100,000. So it's heavily discounted, like 20% discounted. And that's an amazing buying opportunity. But people don't act rational. Right. We can add ICP in there. Its price been doing interesting the last couple of days. So we'll add that to the list. We looked at DMT-NAT the other week. Wasn't that a hard one to find with not much price history? I can share, like, if there's hardly any price history, I don't know that I want to go at it again. I'll check it out while we're looking at some other things and see. I do appreciate some added fundamentals here. One of them is now doing a technical integration of network address translation, or NAT, where mining pool contributors now see both Bitcoin and NAT rewards on their dashboard. Okay. Soon as Powell goes, bull run starts. Bitcoin will be sideways till Powell leaves. I do think there will be some additional interest rate cuts, and I do think in that environment, Bitcoin does better. I think in the coming 2 months, like November, December, going to end up good for crypto, even though it's not feeling that way now. But I think the bigger bull run happens next year, possibly as Powell leaves. I think Trump puts in somebody very, very much in line with what he wants, which he wants interest rates to go sizably down from here to fuel the economy. And Powell is of a different frame of mind. Even though he's bringing interest rates down, he's just bringing them down a little bit. Powell is deep state and wants to crash all markets. I've wondered about that. Some of his stances, like there's some non-deep state actors that think the same way as Powell does, but his behavior has been a little bit interesting. The justifications he used for not lowering interest rates and then switching his justifications, that was weird. So realize when somebody's not giving you the real story, they're often telling you a story, and how you know that it's not the real story is that it doesn't add up over time. So I was watching Powell say for forever, oh, you know what? I know that inflation is coming down, but I have to look at the data that I have in front of me and not what expectations are for what inflation will do. And so I can't lower interest rates even though inflation is coming down because it's not down low enough yet. Then inflation got down low enough to what he said was interesting, where he wanted to see it. And he's like, well, I can't lower interest rates yet because, well, there's expectations for inflation in the future because of this trade war with China and potential trade war with all these countries, which completely contradicted his rationale he'd been using for forever of why he wasn't bringing interest rates down, which tells you he doesn't want to bring down interest rates. It also tells you he's not telling you the real reason. I don't know what that real reason is. Maybe he hates Trump, maybe whatever. Maybe there's something else. I don't have any clue what that real reason is. Just that he wasn't giving us the real reason.
It definitely seemed very political, the spat that they had, and it probably didn't help that Trump was saying it in public. You know, there was probably a better way to negotiate and to get him to lower interest rates. So
you know what? I was thinking about that because he's different that way. He says everything in public. And I thought, it's weird. Like he'll call out the Department of Justice head and be like, so-and-so needs to be. And I was thinking he does everything in public. Like the Biden administration was very political involved with their Department of Justice. And they were going after their political opponents. And all of that was done behind the scenes. Which if the media hates you, I thought, why does he do so much in public? Like he doesn't sit down with Pam Bondi and say, here's what I think. And these people did bad things. And I'd like you to look into it further. He just straight up says it in public. I thought, well, he's actually completely transparent. I guess so there's no expose you can do on him that's like, oh my gosh, he had these secret meetings with Pam Bondi from the Department of Justice saying that so-and-so had been breaking the law and he wants them looked into. Because he said it all out in public, and everything like what he's saying with Jerome Powell is all out in public. There's no secret meetings where he's hiding his agenda. He straight up says in front of everybody what he wants to see. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Well, okay, cool. At least he's transparent with everyone exactly what he thinks on these different things. I was like, that's different than what we've usually seen. And you're right. It puts people on the spot in public. Curious.
Yeah, just if he was if he wanted to, I mean, all economists or people in this situation end up becoming political one way or the other, and there's a very good chance he has an extremely big ego. So if somebody's telling you that they want you to cut rates and you've got to do it, and I don't know what language you use, but maybe I don't know if he insulted him, but maybe if he did, that would just get his back up, and he'll just say, I'll do it when I want, because he doesn't want to feel like he's Trump's lapdog. And so picking through the language is what you end up having to do. And but in any case, the markets are looking for an interest rate cut. That's where it really matters, and all the other stuff is hot air. It's just what will the market do? If the markets come off, it gives a better excuse to cut rates. And like you say, if there's going to be volatility because of the trade war or because of tariffs, you'd want to cut rates, not raise them or not keep them higher, because you're trying to support your domestic businesses. So yes, it could cause inflation further down the line, probably will cause inflation further down the line, but you could cross that bridge when you come to it. Raising interest rates is in that state will only add to the burden that businesses have to pay and make your companies relatively worse off compared to your competitors abroad. So it doesn't make any sense, but then that's what I'd expect from people in those positions. It's fairly consistent that that's what they do. And in some ways, it's good that they do that, because that's what makes the markets move in the way it does.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin's price. Let's look at ETH. So a lot of these are some majors in the crypto space, and just take a look at their price action, see what's going on. Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, SUI, which I think is an amazing layer one blockchain that felt like it was going up only for a while, and it's had a big correction back. Take a look at some price action.
Yeah, pretty much everything's had a correction. So it does feel it doesn't feel great, of course it doesn't, because everything's come off, but Bitcoin is still over 100,000 and sentiment is really negative. So we had a correction here, and that was supposed to be over. It was supposed to be over here as well. Now we're having a correction here. As I say, this could well be the top. I'm not, I can't make the market go up. It will do what it wants to do, but it does seem, in terms of sentiment, that it's unlikely that we're at the top, and I think there's more to come once this current wave of bearishness has passed. I've looked at the if we take this range and then you look at kind of percentage levels, Fibonacci levels, 38.2, 50, 61.8, those are like generally big percentage levels that traders look for in terms of pullback. 100,000 big psychological level, and then 50% big Fibonacci level. Both of those got hit on this retracement, and the markets had a bounce. So I'd be interested to see, just from a pure technical point of view, whether we're going to hold over this area here, maybe start to trend up, even if it goes sideways here and just trades over 100,000. For people who are short, that's not what they want to see. So, but for the moment, yes, clearly lots of volatility, and it may well continue for a few more weeks, but I think it's too early to call the end of the bull market. In terms of ETH, yeah, so this consolidation here, if we take a big step back and look at the big picture, it has come aggressively off the high, but even so, the market hit the 200-week moving average bang on, and it's had a pretty substantial bounce. If it ends the week near these lows or comes back to these lows within the next 2 weeks, then it might not be looking very good. Maybe we'll be seeing a bigger correction. But as it stands, we've had a sharp correction, a rebound that would have cleared out a lot of the longs. Any late players would have definitely, if they're not using any risk management, any leverage, they'd be definitely taken out. They're using leverage, definitely. But as far as the structure goes, it's still not a confirmation of the end of the bull market. So it gets back into this zone. We've seen it happen before. It can still trend up. So would you tread carefully? Yes, absolutely. And do you have to respect this volatility? Of course. But as I say, it's probably premature at this stage to say that this is the end. And I'll be looking for more evidence over the coming weeks. So when it comes to Solana, I mean, Solana was a very decent looking trend, and it has broken this trend line. We haven't looked at it for a while, so it's good that we have. It's broken this trend line quite conclusively, and that is a bearish outcome. but it's not, again, enough to completely change the trajectory of the whole market. So this week hasn't finished on its close. This may be now printing a longer term support point. So if we change that back to the trend line, we've still got this line. So we've got an upward trend line coming from here. And although it'd be early or too early to put this in, if this ends up being a low point, then this would be the new trend rate. So let's see where this closes. It's obviously a big correction from the top, but it's also had a good rally from the low. So we shall see. But it would work from a very long-term perspective that this is a consolidation and it comes back up to these highs and starts to go, up here. That would be from a big picture perspective, a longer term expectation, given that this is in a bullish phase. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to blindly sit there and say it's always bullish just because the long-term structure looks bullish. There are levels where we've got to reconsider that view, and one of the main ones would be this upward trend line. That's the main trend line, and that going would not be good. So we shall see. But again, this is too early for me to say that the overall bull market is over. This could just be a correction. It might be bought into and used as a buying opportunity. But I personally would be waiting for that to happen. I wouldn't be jumping in until there's more evidence that the market has settled down. And as I've said before, I don't mind buying a new high if the market is trending into a new high, breaking a key level, because that is an indication that it's got much more to go, or in the past it indicates it's got much more to go. And that's the way I look at it from a technical point of view. So sometimes for me, it's safe. Well, it is safer to buy a rising trend rather than trying to find the low and then getting caught out, unless it's part of your an overall strategy. Again, it's like, if it's not part of your strategy, you're doing it on the fly or panicking into something because you haven't thought about it. That's never a strategy. But if it's like, well, I want this for the long term, I'm going to buy a little bit and not on leverage each correction, that is a strategy. So that's kind of fair enough. And that's how I would differentiate between doing something just because you've seen some headlines and you've heard some stories, and doing something because you've sat down, really thought about what you want to do and where you'll be right and where you'll be wrong, and what sort of capital you're willing to deploy and where you're expecting it to go in the future.
Yeah, I want to share this chart on ETH. And what I like about this is historical perspective. So, I mean, look at what the price action's been doing. Here's the 2021 bull run, where it went up to 4,400. And then a little bit later in the year, it came up to close to 5,000. And then it came back down in the bear market to under 900 bucks. So big swings. And it's been trading in this, but look historically. This is what ETH looked like during the previous bear market. So the early 2018 peak going up to $1,400, and it pulled back in this zone. And look how it just struggled here. And it finally gets to essentially a bear market high again here in later 2020. Then it pushes up late 2020 to its previous all-time highs. Okay, so then it busts through and goes on this parabolic run from 1,400 to 4,300. So this run happened after it came up, touched, came back down, and then it went up, it came back down again, and then it was just really ready to go off to the races. Well, isn't that kind of what we're seeing here? Here's the previous all-time high. It came back down during the bear market, and it's really struggling around this ceiling here and really hasn't punched through. And I feel like this same feeling I had in 2020 with the crypto market and with where sentiment was. And there was so much bearishness that 2021 just was not going to be a bull market. And that, it just felt like the bear market would never end, and that it just wasn't going to happen. And people were saying ETH is dead and ETH's not going to make it and all these things. And then it went crazy. Like, if you remember what, even just back here in April, people were saying ETH was dead. Like, ETH just isn't going to make it in the future. There's so many other like layer one blockchains it's competing with that it's not substantively going to be in the future. And boy, how that changed. Then here, when it goes up to almost 5K, everyone's talking about ETH again. Like, ETH is the biggest thing, and all these banks are using ETH, which they are. Banks are building a lot of stuff on the ETH blockchain. Like, ETH, I think, has made it. But what a different story than what everyone was saying when the price action was way down here, compared to what they're saying when the price action was up here. And now just everything in crypto has corrected backwards, and it's fine. Like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This happens. And I like that Paul has given me a tool to look at on the fear and greed index when we have these big sentiments, because I'm always trying to assess, okay, has the top been reached? Is it going to go the other way? And my indicator prior to this was just, well, none of people were saying it's never going to stop going up. In fact, I really didn't hear anybody saying that. And so that's my indicator that, like, no, we're not at the top and haven't been at the top yet. But secondarily, looking at the fear and greed index, and fear being so high tells me there's a lot more left to come. That this is just a severe pullback. But my thesis, I think, still plays out this way, that November and December are pretty good for crypto. Bigger bull run next year and it goes crazy. And at that point, we hear people saying it's never going to stop going up, which is the time to start getting concerned. Because it does stop going up at a certain point. It always does. Every market does. So Solana, myself, like, what's funny is I do like fundamentals, and I've had a hard time. Like, Solana has never made as much sense to me as some of the other crypto projects out here. Now, during the bear market, it hit this crazy low price that got my attention. It's showing it go to $8 here. It was at $7 that I saw. I was like, wow, it's $7. The risk to reward on Solana the potential reward is really, really good. But Solana in these higher price ranges is just concerning to me. Like, meme coins have done very well on Solana, but I don't know if I see enough of the future being built on Solana for me to be like, okay, Solana's the thing. When Solana gets tons of traction, its blockchain has failed and had to be restarted so many times, which I've seen that in very few blockchains out there. So the story behind why Solana continues to be so big is major players in the crypto space were early investor in Solana and have huge influence with it. Okay, well, that could make sense to me, but, like, why is Solana going to beat something like SUI is the question I ask myself. And I'm always looking for underpriced things. So when I look at it, let's see, Solana's market cap, $89,000 or $89 billion. And let's find SUI going down. SUI. Okay, $7.5 billion. I get that Solana has a lot more traction now. It's been out far, far longer. But in the long term, like, SUI's going to have more opportunity to try to get projects to build on it versus Solana. I look at, will Solana or SUI do better in the future? And I'm inclined to believe SUI. So with that said, let's take a look at SUI's price and see what SUI is doing.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, it has corrected quite a lot. And at the moment, it's testing some major support, which is going back to last year. I would have thought there'd be a bit more data on this actually, but in any case, it's clearly in a support zone that if it gets through this $1.73, that is not good at all. There's a lot of high profile crypto names who like this, and I'd be interested to see whether they, just from a sentiment point of view, whether they throw in the towel. Technically, I couldn't justify holding it below 172, but until it actually confirms that break, it's still in this big range. And if we look at the very short term and how it's made this lower move and it's trying to correct back up again, we'll see very quickly whether the buying's coming in, whether this is seen as being cheap and an opportunity to either buy more or to average in or whatever, or for new players to step in, or there's more downside. So at the moment, I personally wouldn't step in at this point just because I can't justify it technically. I need to see a bounce from support and the market trending up. So for me, it's a wait, but it is at a very important point on the chart where it has reacted before. It reacted as resistance here. It reacted around here as well, and then it broke up. It's reacted around here as support and rallied. So here we are again. Let's see how it reacts. If it starts to move up, that would be a great green light. But you could buy or sell at any point on the chart, of course. It's whether there's justification. I could justify saying, well, it's in a support zone, so I could buy it here, but I'd very much have a stop below 174. But given everything else, I'd prefer to be looking at something that's a little less in a correction. In other words, something that's similar, but say halfway in the correction, like somewhere around here. That would say relative to me that it's stronger. And then if and when things turn around, it could lead the way back up. So that's how I would see it.
Yeah. Here's SUI on CoinMarketCap, and it doesn't have a lot of price history because it wasn't tradable. Now, a little bit of backstory on SUI, if I'm even saying that right. I hear some people say SUI, but I'm just going to say SUI. Maybe that's pronounced right, maybe it isn't, but all of you know what I'm talking about. Facebook put all this research into blockchain and crypto, and they were trying to make their own blockchain, and they were going to make their own stable coin, and that got nipped in the bud. And so they handed all their research, and they spent a fortune on this research. And out of that research and stuff, SUI was created. So a lot of planning, a lot of money was spent on it. So far, what I've seen on projects building on it is like they're happy with it. Transaction speeds are good, costs are good. Like, I'm just not seeing some of the problems with Solana. And so, like, you don't always get the best product when billions of dollars are spent, but it does help tremendously depending on who built it and how they built it. That is more money going into planning and building a blockchain than I think anything has been spent. Like EOS had billions come into it. I don't know that EOS was billions were spent building EOS. Part of the problem is that money like didn't go into development. But with SUI, different story. So I'm curious to see, and I've been watching it. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and Solana, I've really just seen it become the meme coin chain that people can easily launch meme coins on and trade meme coins. But as far as more like good adoption, I'm just seeing SUI get additional partnerships and people building on it based on merit. Like we're seeing in the comments, this is great additional context. Solana had to pay $25 million for a partnership with Western Union. Western Union didn't select Solana based on tech, but because they were paid. Isn't that interesting? So,
that is pretty interesting. But unless the tech worked, they wouldn't have accepted it, because otherwise it would just ruin Western Union's business and tarnish their brand. And
yeah,
I'm not saying it's I mean, I would differentiate it. It's very interesting comments about they're as bad as a meme coin, but a meme coin, there's no value there. There's no
no, they're
tech.
not as bad as a meme coin. They're the blockchain that a lot of meme coin transaction volume has been used for. So it's really easy to create meme coins on Solana, and the marketplace for the dexes for buying and selling the meme coins on Solana work very well. And so it really, Solana's price did amazingly well as meme coins went well, because a lot of people were buying and selling them. Most of them were being created on the Solana blockchain. So the major use case happening so far with Solana, as far as who's been building it, has been mostly meme coins being built on it. And so they are a layer 1 blockchain. And they really came into ascendancy in 2021, where their transactions speed was much faster than ETH, but also the costs were so much cheaper than ETH. But as it really started to run under heavy load, their blockchain failed several times. They had to restart it, which ETH, for all its problems, I haven't seen that happen with ETH. So ETH can't handle as many transactions per second as Solana can. And the costs became very cost prohibitive in 2021 when so many transactions were happening for ETH for Solana, but crashing like Solana did was like, whoa, we haven't actually seen a major blockchain crash like this. They're like, oh, don't worry about it, we're going to fix it. And then it would crash again. Oh, we're going to fix it, which tells me possibly poor planning or attack vectors or something. But institutions are definitely going to be concerned about that. Now, does it work good enough that somebody can build on it? Yes. Are they the best option? If they were the best option, then nobody needs to pay them to build on it. They're going to want to build on it because they're the best market solution. So why is $25 million changing hands? I'd just say that's interesting. We don't know. Now, sometimes there's grants. It's like, oh, we'll give you 25 million grant to spend on development to build it. And maybe that's what that 25 million is. But if the 25 million is, here's 25 million, if you build on our chain, it's like, well, why didn't they select them based on the tech being exactly where they want to build rather than getting 25 million? Now, SUI has done grants to companies where it's like, oh, you're a startup crypto company and they want you to build on their blockchain, and they have like a fund of SUI tokens that they set aside that can be then given to those companies. So SUI does do grants to companies, which is essentially giving them money to build on them, which may be what happened with Western Union Solana. I don't know what form that 25 million was in and what was the agreement on that. But SUI does that. So if you're XYZ smaller crypto company and stuff, and you apply for a grant and they really like your case and you win a grant, you might get 200,000, you might get $1 million towards development for building on SUI. So SUI does that kind of thing too. In fact, Cardano does that kind of thing. So we do see that kind of thing in the space. Like, which blockchain is ultimately going to have the most transactions? I think there's going to be lots of winners. But what I like is I like buying things cheap that are going to be much more expensive later, because then that ride up is where all the profits are made. And Solana's at a $90 billion market cap, and SUI's at a $7.5 billion market cap. So if SUI just gets to where Solana is, that's a 12x up in price just to be where Solana is now. Like, I like that kind of spread. Is it going to happen? I think so. I think so. Now, does SUI ultimately beat Solana? I don't know, but I think it's a lot more clear that I think in the coming bull run that SUI goes to Solana's market cap and possibly exceeds it. Yeah. I do like this kind of price action. Now, the problem with buying down in this zone, even with the way I buy things, is I'm pretty patient. I like to buy low and I don't mind waiting because I try to load up during the bear market and I pretty much just sell when things are going crazy. So when I buy, I try to buy low, and $2 is a lot lower than $4. I'm like, cool, I like that situation. Now, when I do buy, and I would rate this a buy, I'm okay if it then goes even cheaper. If it breaks through this market structure, guess what? It might come back down to 88 cents. It may come back down to lower numbers like 70 cents and 60 cents. If that happens, that's okay. Like $2 would still be a good deal, not as great as it got to. So then I just dollar cost average more as things go lower. And it's like, well, shoot, I wish I had known exactly where the bottom is. I would have waited, but I have to ask myself, is $2 a good price? Now, am I actually buying blue chip projects like SUI with such high market caps already? No, no. So I'm not buying SUI. I'm in lower market cap, much riskier projects that if they succeed, they'll have a much, much higher upside, but they have more risk on whether they'll ultimately succeed than, say, SUI does. All right. Let's look at ZCASH, which, I mean, the chart has been very, very different than most of the crypto space.
Yes, indeed. And somebody's got some money to buy this, haven't they? And it also came out of almost nowhere. I mean, we discussed the initial breakout and how it came relatively it came out of a consolidation, but then the signs of a change in market dynamics was there. That's the thing with trends. You can say that they're over and they say that they're too high, but they can just keep going. Would I jump in and buy at this point? Personally, no, because I feel like I've missed the boat. If I were long it, I would want to stay in it until the market gives a signal that it's reversed. If I had to do one thing, either buy it or sell it, if I was forced to do something, I wouldn't want to short it because the trend is up, and I could have shorted it at any level. 230. I could have said that was too high, or 240, 350. I could have said that was too high, 370. It's 474 now. 500 is obviously a psychological level, and it's hit that and rejected it. So I've got to have some amount of respect for that big round number, and that will give me pause for thought, even if I wanted to jump on the trend. But overall, there's no reversal pattern as such for me to say this is an indication of the top. There's no spike, and it being too high, inverted commas, is not language that we use in technical analysis. And things can go up and keep going, and we wait for the market to tell us when that's too far. But certainly there was a better time to buy it. I know that, but not only from a price point of view, but from a technical point of view, even the break of the previous resistance, previous major high, that gives a signal. Once you're into this sort of clear space, it's very difficult to get a trading strategy. I guess one could buy it at these levels and put a stop below the prior high, but because the market is so volatile, you're not going to get anything other than a very large stop, which means that the position size has to be much smaller to take into account the volatility. And then for me, it becomes almost a kind of, should we play something else that could do this rather than chasing something that's already done it? But I like strength. I like going with the winners, and I think this is a very interesting market. We looked at it when it was lower down. I can't remember what I said, and hopefully I said something along the lines of it breaking the resistance point was the point to buy or to add to it, because there was a consolidation there that allowed for that, especially if we move into a daily chart. But where it is now, so this area here was a very nice technical pattern that it came up, broke through, and then retested as support, and then kept going. So it's trading very nice from a technical point of view, that can change very quickly, of course. Remember, this is only what I'm looking at right now. If it breaks this line or makes some kind of reversal, I've got to respect that. But yeah, it's also, if anything, it makes us, or should make one realize that the markets can turn very, very quickly from apparently nothing into a major move. And it would be this sort of move that I would expect to see in everything that would kind of end the bull market. See what I mean? Like everyone piling in and it doing something inverted commas crazy in a very short space of time. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that would be characteristic of the end of a bull market, with everything screaming higher in a very short space of time. And then all the kind of voices that are saying this is dangerous, and the too many people who are getting in who don't really know what they're doing, they wouldn't listen to that because they would have made so much money. So that's more characteristic of an end of a bull market. But definitely, well done to whoever got in there early, and it's great that we're looking at it again. I think we should keep looking at it because I want to see whether we get signs of a reversal pattern, or whether it's going to keep squeezing higher. But well done for picking it.
Yeah, it's fun to see Zcash doing so well, and I don't own Zcash, and I'm okay with not owning it. Sure, if I had a magic crystal ball, it would be fun to just have seen this coming and roll some money into it, and then roll it into some other things. As the privacy narrative has been playing out, I'm trying to get rid of this. There we go. No. Let me select it. There we go. All right. So privacy narrative never really hit hard in 2021. In 2017, it was one of the big crypto narratives that ran. And in 2021, like Gary Gensler pretty much declared war on the crypto privacy narrative. And so it's not like nothing pumped. You still saw Zcash do okay in this, but it was one of the older privacy coins that had some traction, but it didn't pump compared to some other things. And it got punished during the bear market. If you see it, it came right back down to the lows of the previous bear market. And it's already exceeded the highs of the 2021 run. So it's gone absolutely crazy from essentially $17 bear market lows up. It almost hit 20x from that. Okay, cool. One of the things I never do is I never chase massive green candles, but I do like to see this kind of action go. And this is like, I often use the analogy because I saw this in 2017. I saw this in 2021's bull market of it's like popcorn popping, microwave popcorn, where you put a bag in the microwave and for forever it feels like it's not doing anything. And when you put it in there, your first experience with it, it feels like, oh my gosh, the microwave's going, nothing's happening. And then it starts to go and you get a few pops and you see the bag start to expand a little bit. And you're like, oh, okay, something's happening. And then all these kernels start popping faster and faster and faster. And then the bag is going like this. Now, having watched it a number of times, that the bag expands to its full size and then it stops there. But if you didn't know that, you didn't have any context for it, it would feel like the popcorn is just continuing to increase and it's never going to slow down and stop. It's just going to keep going. And that's what it feels like in the bull run. And people feel like, oh my gosh, because they haven't really ever paid attention to this type of thing. And they jump in, and to them, it feels like the popcorn just continues to accelerate, more and more popping. That's never going to end. And that's where you get all those statements. And anyone who says otherwise, it's kind of like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, I've seen this bag of popcorn before, like not this exact one, but other bags of popcorn. And when it feels like it's never going to end is right near the end. And we haven't felt that yet. So I've enjoyed seeing Zcash pop off. Lex asked us to look at Dash and Digibyte as well, which I haven't looked at Dash's price. I wondered if this would carry over across the privacy narrative. And Dash is another privacy coin. So we'll take a look at Dash's price after we look at some of the others and add that in there. Neo and Near and EOS could be next. EOS I won't touch with a 10-foot pole, even though like EOS will probably do something in the bull market. I just don't think EOS is going to survive long term. Fundamentally, they stopped developing on it. They did a deal with the SEC, which under Gary Gensler said they had an illegal ICO. And okay, you raised all this money, you're going to pay this fine, and don't use that money to keep building your blockchain. Essentially, okay, so they're not going to continue like maintaining and developing their blockchain at all. So it's dead. You know, even though it's still floating around and people are still trading the token, in my book, EOS is pretty much dead. That doesn't mean it. I've seen dead coins pump in a bull market. There was this one in 2017 where the founder was like arrested and put in jail, and I don't think the employees were showing up to work the next day, and still it's priced like 2 or 3x from there because it was a bull run. And I'm like, wow, that's strange. Okay, let's take a look at, we looked at Zcash, so we're into the suggestions. And Fowler says, can we look at ICP, please? I wonder if it can do the same move as ZCASH out of nowhere. Well, let's see. Zcash wasn't on our radar, but there was clearly a break to the upside when you look back at the charts, where there is a pattern where it became clear that it was breaking to the upside for people that were watching it and know what to look for. What are you seeing with ICP?
Yeah, so I think we looked at it when it made the spike low and sort of identified that this was the spike, and it went sideways after the spike, which was important. But the next step is that it needed to move up, which it did, and it's got above the support point here, which was the trigger for the low, which was great. So those points indicate that this is a significant low, a major low, and potentially short-term buys. It's whether it becomes a longer-term buy. We've got this big downward trend line I'll just put that in the right point from the high. That's coming down, so that's facing down. But what I like about this is we've got this area of support that's coming along, this resistance, sorry, that once it's through it, it will be an area of support. So it's tested it, it's backed off it, which one would expect given how strong this area is. It's support and resistance that goes back here. So very key level at 650, 625. So the question is, can it get through there? Well, we'll see. But if it does, that does indicate that the market has made a significant low, and it could well do a Zcash. I mean, I'm not saying it definitely will, but we've seen that things can come out of nowhere, and that is indicative of a very strong phase of a bull market. It'd be surprising actually to see maybe the next phase come out of the altcoins and not out of the majors. I just wonder whether that's what's going to happen. Anyway, that was just a thought that came into my head now. But yeah, from a technical point of view, it's definitely looking a hell of a lot better than it did before. This spike was an indication of a potential sell-off, which was a reversal. So it's a strong sell-off that indicates that the market wants to buy back in. And we mentioned that on a few that had done that. Some had done this and stayed low, which is a bad sign. This one happened and it rebounded. So why would come in? People saw it as an opportunity to buy more, or as a bargain price. And the price action that's followed it has confirmed that. It's added to that view. So yeah, we should keep this. If we don't look at it next week, we should look at it the week after for sure. I want to see if it gets through this 625 resistance point. It has backed off it, so I can't say it is a buy quite yet for me. I need it to hold above that level, but it's a very interesting weight at this point. Yeah, and I'd be asking myself the same question.
Yeah. Great for bringing this to our attention. This is one to watch. The price action is interesting. It may be signaling a reversal to the upside. Like Paul said, it hasn't broken through yet. but that's really interesting price action. This might be a precursor to that. Now, if I'm right, November and December are pretty strong. That means some of the popcorn is going to be popping. And this is the kind of stuff you often will see before it starts popping up. Like ZCASH, if we look at ZCASH, really what you saw here was this break from this trend. It broke to the upside, confirmed, and then it just went off to the races. And so if you were watching this, like, it was a clear break, and then it just went parabolic at that point. That's what popcorn popping off looks like. The privacy narrative is in play, and we'll take a look at some more privacy coins. Now, you've kind of talked about MicroStrategy and looked at their price already. Did we fully answer your question, Chris? And shout out to Chris, who does our timestamps on these videos. So thank you for doing that. He asked, can we take a look at MicroStrategy today, as there's historically been a correlation between stock price and Bitcoin? You kind of went over that. Do you feel like we satisfied that, Paul?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought you were asking Chris to put a response there. Yeah, there's not much, sorry. There's not much to add for MicroStrategy. I thought the next one was on the list was something else anyway.
Yeah, I had missed that one, and I forgot to put a star by it, and I was like, well.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you, I think we could actually look at MicroStrategy every week and see where it is, because it is an interesting representation of risk on, and we'll see if Michael Saylor's buying more. He should be, because he's very bullish. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely watch it.
All right. So
yeah,
blonde growth assets, we can check out DMT-NAT, and we just don't have a lot of history there.
yeah, we still don't really. I think this is the right. Is this the right one? I thought it was a green one last time. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. Look, it has turned around. It's done something interesting. If this was a short-term pattern, it would look. This is what's called a bullish engulfing pattern from Japanese candlestick charting, and what that means is the green candle is engulfed 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty much prior bearish candles, which should be confirmed with another green candle. So, it may have reversed its trend, but anything that's got less than a month of data, it could be random, couldn't it? It could go up today, and then whoever's got big holdings sell it, and it's going to go back down again. So you got to be very careful about using technicals on very low volume trades, because you're not looking at the mind of the market. You're looking at the mind of just a few people, which is very much unpredictable compared to a broader market.
I am getting a little bit more history on CoinMarketCap versus CoinGecko, but it's still not as much history as we'd like to see. It goes back to early August, which means we have just August, September, October, like 3 months history, which isn't very much.
Yeah. So, yeah, NAT is what you've got there, is it? What's yeah, that's the same. That's the same price I've got. Yeah, okay.
This channel should be getting more respect, should be getting 45K views. Well, one of the reasons my channel doesn't get more views is I cover things that are undervalued. And what's funny is, you would think that everyone looking at crypto, that's what they search for, but that isn't the case. A lot of people chase green candles or where the action is, and that's okay. This isn't that kind of channel. This channel is for those that understand buying low and then selling high, rather than buying high hoping it goes higher. Now, most people, 95% of people in crypto, buy high hoping it goes higher, and it's just not meant to be that type of channel. You find that everywhere on YouTube and lots of channels, and the incentives are aligned that you will grow a lot bigger if that's what you give people, because that's what the public wants to hear. It makes them feel good, but that's not what type of channel this is, and that's okay. Let's see, what other ones do we have? Let's get into, I think, ZCASH and Dash. Let's take a look at those two. Well, we already looked at ZCASH. Let's take a look at Dash.
Okay. Yeah, Dash is again another one of these brilliant breakouts. So you're going to be looking at lots of different markets. It's got some history as well, which is great. It's not made a new all-time high, but it's made a multi-year high, which is again interesting. This has in the short term made a spike. So for me, the trend is temporarily over. But what I'd like to see is some form of consolidation and then a breakout to allow me to join the trend. So this pattern here was the sort of consolidation that it may make before the next move up. But yeah, look at it. It's fantastic breakout. Really, really great the way it took out this 72, which was near this prior resistance as well. And I think this is one that we looked at nearer the low. I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure we were talking about this technical pattern down here and how this 25 level, which is an inverse head and shoulders, kicked the move off. But you know, we've looked at so many markets. Maybe we didn't. But I do remember looking at this compression or something that was similar on some other market that that kicked off the trend. So yeah, it's probably got more to go longer term. Very short term, I can't justify buying it just because this for me is a spike pattern. And the spike is just when the market makes a high and then closes within the next bar or within that bar way off the high. And it just means that the market's got overexcited and needs to just calm down. Usually you see a consolidation, and that consolidation can sometimes turn into a reversal pattern. But as we've seen with ZCASH, sometimes it just is a consolidation before the market squeezes higher. Same thing happened in gold. You know, it made a few sort of early runs that then went sideways and then it broke out and went again. So a pause in this market would be great. And it would be, I think, very bullish for it to just hang around between sort of $100 and 140 for a few weeks. And then people kind of forget about it. And then it does the next move. But yeah, definitely, you know, we should look at it again. But for me, at the short term, it's just a wait.
Yes. Let's see. Well, what's interesting is I was looking at dates on this, and they both break solidly to the upside right around the same time. So you see this massive green candle on the 30th of September, which ZCASH has this massive green candle on the 30th of September, and then the October 1st continues massively to the upside. So they broke out at the same time. So this is what a narrative run looks like. So the privacy narrative hit. And I was concerned about the privacy narrative after 2021 and the SEC really going after privacy coins. I liked the narrative. I was invested in it during the bear market, and the privacy narrative did not do well in the bull market of 2021. And so I didn't invest during this bear market into the privacy narrative. There were other narratives that I liked better that were less in the way of the regulators. Now that you have very different regulators put in charge of the SEC, you're seeing that the privacy narrative is once again semi-embraced by the regulators. And you're seeing the results of it. This is what a narrative run looks like. Now, if I'm right and the popcorn really starts popping November and December and then a lot more next year, you're going to see runs carry over through all these different narratives in crypto. This is just one of the first. And this is what a narrative run looks like. This is what popcorn popping looks like. Exciting for me to see this. Okay, I didn't have any cards on the table in this one. That's fine. I'm excited to see this because this is what a narrative run looks like, and it will usually then cycle through to other narratives. All right, let's see. Fun under the sun with the super chat. Will Paul be joining us in Vegas? Let's see Paul breakdance.
Yeah, so, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Paul breakdance.
I'd love to see Paul breakdance too. So there is a VV conference coming up in like 2 weeks in Vegas. I'll be there for that. I'm pretty sure Paul will not be there for the VV one. But after this bull market, if there is this big one, maybe we can convince Paul to come out to Vegas, and then we're gonna do. Maybe we can do some live karaoke since we
Yeah,
took Chris karaoke song.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I'd be happy to come out. I just need a bit more notice, really, to yeah, just to sort the diary out. But yeah, I'd be happy to come. I
That's
mean,
awesome. I have a
I
great
can't do the
friend,
2-week one.
a
I can't.
nice, amazing condo in Vegas too. Maybe I can convince him that we just stay there. Um, Such a cool, beautiful place with a view. He's got karaoke equipment
Cool.
right
Yeah,
there.
we'll do a live show from there. That'd be great.
That would be fun. Cool. All right. Let's see. Was there anything else? Novelty known. It says as full time at Devio. I'm hell excited about the end of year because I have a lot of tokens ready to moon. More data on CoinMarketCap. Oh, related to
Yeah,
what we were
that's the
looking
other
at. Yeah, it did have better data on CoinMarketCap. FIRO is also in this narrative, but hasn't had massive run. Some others have had. Maybe take a look. Well, yeah, let's take a look for FIRO. Looks like FIRO. And see, sometimes when a narrative runs, sometimes not all of the popcorn pops at exactly the same time. We saw in blockchain gaming that a bunch of the blockchain, so there was a narrative run in blockchain gaming in December or October 2023. And I think it was mostly created by Alex Becker coming really strong on why blockchain gaming was going to be one of the big things. And all the tokens he talked about in that video went crazy. And then some other ones went crazy. And then a little bit later, some other ones went crazy as the money kind of flowed through the entire blockchain gaming narrative and almost everything pumped. But they didn't all pump on the same day. Some of them were separated by about 10 days. So let's see what FIRO is looking like.
Very interesting. We got a similar base here with a breakout point at 82 or 83 cents. So you can see how many times that was hit, and then had a little go at breaking out. It took a few goes, and then off it went. Doing exactly the same here. This is the sort of pattern that I would have liked to have seen in the previous chart, where the market spikes, comes off, and then goes sideways, and then starts to break up again. And this is doing the breakup. So a great shout to have a look at this, because risk reward, yeah, it's looking good. There is some overhead resistance, of course. There's still all of this to work through, but I've got a entry point at 197 and a stop would be below this line here. So I'd draw a line across these lows, which is rising, and I'd put a stop, say, below time against price around sort of 120, that sort of area. I mean, the big stop is really below 115, but you can split the stops as well. You don't have to put it all in one place. But yeah, I like the look of this chart, and you can feel that the upward pressure's there. And as you've said, there's obviously lots of other people looking for the next one and some preemptive buying. So the big breakout point for this is at $3, because that's psychological. There's a lot of resistance up there. So if it gets from here to $3, and then, oh, sorry, did I say three? I mean, yeah, no, that is three. Sorry, then it looked like 350. Yeah, $3. There's the only other thing to say about this chart is there are a lot of very strange spikes, which does indicate that the volume is much lower than some of the majors, which adds an extra level of caution. So I'd like to see this smooth out a bit, but it probably will be once people start getting in and the volume goes up. But there is definitely some weird sort of spikes here and there that like, for example, around here, this is very weird price action. I mean, how do you trade that? I'd be looking at that going, well, that looks like it's going down, and it went right up in my face by not an insignificant amount. So a strong level of caution's got to be approached with this, even with stop loss levels. The way this market moves, it might not necessarily, respect your stop. It might go way through it, which means that risk against reward have got to be, you've got to work out what works for you. But for me, that means a lower position size, and a bit more caution. And also, it's not the sort of thing that you can look at and just forget about for another month. The action is almost daily, so you become a day trader almost when you're looking at something that could potentially move like this. And that was a point I was making, I think, last week, or maybe it was the week before, about when we look at these things, we're taking a snapshot, and things can change very quickly within a couple of days, but sometimes it's within a few hours. So we're always updating depending on what the market is telling us. But yeah, definitely a very good one to end on, because that's a really interesting chart.
Yeah, this would be fun to, if you want well, Dan Man, who brought it up, if you bring it up next week, I'm curious to see how this plays out. If the momentum continues in the privacy narrative for another week, I wouldn't be surprised if this breaks to the upside as money kind of chases into what is the other thing within the privacy narrative that hasn't really pumped. The market cap on this is a lot lower. So like here's FIRO's chart. If you go to coin market cap, you see this market cap is 35 million. And that's after, the price was just recently 30 cents. So it's essentially up 6x from where it was, bringing the market cap up to 35 million. But like Paul said, like look for it to really start popping off if it breaks strongly above $3. So right now it's just kind of in the keep an eye on this zone. And this will tell us how strong the privacy narrative continues. If I'm right that November and December are going to be strong months, I would expect that we will see this actually break to the upside in the coming week as the privacy narrative continues. If we don't see that, it will make me put less weight to my thesis that November and December are going to be strong. So we'll see. I just kind of watch how things play out and then update my probabilities based on what I'm seeing. For now, I think the probabilities are weighted pretty good that November and December are somewhat strong and that the bigger blow off top happens next year. Curious to see how this plays out in the next week. Because if November, December is going to be somewhat strong, I would expect money to slide into this from some of the other privacy coins, as well as maybe the privacy coins continue a little bit longer. The major ones that have already been running for the past week. So we'll see. I guess not even the past week, the past month they've been running since early October, September 30th, 1st of October. So they've been running for a month. All right. Oh, you know what's interesting about this one? I'm just noticing this chart isn't up to date. No, it is. Okay. It said 25th. Okay, I was worried that the chart isn't up to date based on these numbers at the bottom, but it looks like it is.
Oh, if it's on a weekly chart, sometimes it gives the beginning of the week, or if it's on sometimes, yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen that before.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, good. It is up to date. Otherwise, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's going on with this?
Another one to look at maybe in the space that would come to mind, I don't know what you guys think, but would be Monero, because that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, the chart looks pretty good as well, so that could be worth watching.
Monero is one of the big privacy plays that, like, I think the who is it? The Gary Gensler SEC tried to destroy Monero. They were unsuccessful. Like they went after Monero, trying to get it delisted from every exchange out there. They really went to war against the privacy narrative, and they were successful in getting a bunch of the major exchanges to delist Monero.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the question should be, why are privacy coins running now? What do they know? What do they know that's coming? Something's coming.
Something's coming. Definitely, right? So what's funny is the same people that were behind going after all the privacy narratives are the ones behind debanking the Trump family. Part of the reason the Trump family is so pro crypto is they had bank accounts with all these major banks for like 30 years. And within a week, all their banks shut down their accounts across the spectrum. And they're like, what? You can't do that. I mean, apparently you can because you just did, but what kind of political work is this? Like, and the reasons are like, oh yeah, like often they weren't even given a reason. They're like, I don't like this. And so that really, like Don Jr. talked pretty strong about crypto and ability of crypto to like have safety in your money, because if the government can come in and debank you, how are you going to afford your living and stuff? And that means if you say the wrong things politically, you can be targeted. And you gotta have security in your money. So that gave even more credence to them pushing crypto. So probably there's something going on with privacy coins and behind the scenes that we're just not aware of. Somebody is, though. And you saw that from September 30th. Somebody got some information. And I don't know what that information is, but you're seeing it reflected in the price action. Cool. Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for the picks. Thanks for the comments. I'll be practicing my break dancing and, enjoy the conference in a couple of weeks' time.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
Paul's amazing. So good to have him on here joining us from DFINITY. We thank DFINITY, one of our strategic partners, for lending Paul to us. His insights are so incredible. He's been doing price analysis for 30 years. And so I started looking into price trading and day trading and stuff back in 2020. And I realized for me, it's not for me. I don't want to be looking at the charts every single day. But his insights on recognizing when things are breaking to the upside are critical, even with the way I trade. And it just is, I enjoy what I learned from him because it helps me to understand price action even better. So I know you all love it too, because I get so many comments, not only in the YouTube videos, but also in our private community about how much you look forward to the days with Paul. Such an even keel, amazing guy. I look forward to them too. Thank you all for joining us. Enjoy this wrap. This wrap is just a fun way to reinforce our principles. Like, these are the principles that I've seen that the 5% of people that make meaningful wealth in crypto employ. Just put them together in a fun song about the Rainmaker family, just to really inject some fun into what we do here, because sometimes it feels painful being in the crypto space on down days like this, and that's just part of the bigger journey. See you soon.
Came into this space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. Buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. Sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling the parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road could soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow, would be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the games. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be cracking. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Amazing time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.